Layer the sounds with me for a moment. A tin cup clinks against a saucer. A glass bottle cap is unscrewed with a tiny hiss. Water splashes into a basin. A jerrycan is set down with a soft thud. And in those noises, a whole network appears. What does a borrowed cup remember as it moves between strangers, neighbors, and kin?
That image already feels like a map. The clink tells of a morning market. The hiss carries a vendor's palm. As we listen, we start to notice economies of care built into these small gestures. Who washes, who lends, who repairs.
Welcome to Ancient Echoes. I'm Samnang Bradley, and with me is Rachana Solve. Today we promise to listen closely to the life of everyday containers, the tin cups at tea stalls, glass soda bottles that get refilled, enamel bowls held aside for a monk's visit, and the jerrycans that travel to rice fields. We'll trace how they circulate, who keeps them moving, and what they tell us about trust, repair, and memory.
Before we begin, a brief important note on health and consent. This episode describes social practice and cultural routines. We will not give step-by-step cleaning instructions or medical advice. If you want public health guidance, please consult certified health resources. Also, if you ever photograph or record someone's belongings, ask permission first. We'll offer exact Khmer and English phrases later in the episode.
Let's start with a simple inventory. A container primer. Imagine 4 everyday items. A thin tin cup used for tea, a green glass soda bottle that gets refilled, an enamel bowl with a small chip at the rim, and a blue plastic jerrycan patched at the handle. Each one has its own material life and social life. Where do you usually see each of these?
Tin cups live at dawn tea stalls and in small homes. Glass refill bottles cluster at market counters. Vendors who run refill services know each bottle by its scratches. Enamel bowls are common in pagoda kitchens and home altars. Jerrycans travel, carried to the paddy, left by pumps, shared between neighbors. The materials, metal, glass, enamel, plastic, shape the repair options and the ways people relate to them.
That material life matters. A dented tin cup rings differently when set down. A glass bottle's seam tells a story of a factory or a family brand. And those physical marks often carry social meaning. Whose cup is this? Who owes what deposit? Whose name is scrawled on the bottom with a ballpoint?
Which brings us to the folks we often don't see at first glance, the roadside washers. I want you to imagine a low wooden bench beside a market alley, jars of soap suds, stacks of cups, a rhythm of scrubbing and rinsing. The seasonal rhythms are striking, offering more work in the rainy season when markets are slushier and sharing increases.
I visited one cleaner in a provincial market who told me he prefers certain detergents because they preserve enamel. I don't name the product, that's not the point. What matters are the tacit norms, payment by small change, a nod that means, I'll look after this one today, and a practice of setting cups on a woven mat to dry in the sun. Those habits are as much social glue as they are technique.
Right. Let me underline that. We're describing, not advising. The research shows diverse practices, and the evidence tells us that communities often develop their own hygiene habits, informed by experience, local knowledge, and access to resources. We point listeners to certified health organizations for any safety protocols.
Now to the tinsmiths and menders, the craftsmen who keep things moving. Picture a small workshop with a battered anvil, a spool of solder, and a pile of dented lids. There's a steady, satisfying sound as a hammer returns metal to a useful curve. Repair is a practiced economy. It costs less than a replacement, and it preserves the social identity embedded in the object.
These repairers often apprenticed informally, learning by watching, by repeating a fold, a rivet, a splice. Apprenticeship rhythms matter. The way a young worker learns the cadence of a tool, the way older hands correct a curve. Repair keeps the circulation alive, and it often carries stories. Whose cup lasted through a wedding? Whose bottle traveled continents?
Next is the market logic that makes reuse legible. Deposits, barter, reputation. At a tea stall, you might leave a small coin or simply hand over a named marker, sometimes a snip of cloth tied to a cup handle so the vendor knows it belongs to you. These systems aren't written contracts. They are practiced trust economies.
And reputation is fragile but powerful. Vendors remember whether a customer returns a cup promptly. A vendor's willingness to lend a cup or a bottle depends on many small signals: previous returns, the customer's regularity, a neighbor's word. Anthropologically speaking, these exchanges are social capital. They circulate with objects.
I want to take listeners now to a quieter scene, diaspora translations. Imagine a family in a new city packing a single enamel bowl or a favorite teacup into a suitcase. That object becomes a bridge. It carries a recipe memory, a scent, a shape that's immediately recognizable. In homes far from Cambodia, these vessels anchor routines and ease homesickness.
One story I collected, a grandmother wrapped a chipped tin cup in an old sarong before a long flight. She said with a smile that the cup knows the curve of her hands. That cup was not merely useful, it was an heirloom of habit. When objects travel, they translate cultural practices. They are used differently, maybe preserved more carefully, or folded into new rituals.
We've spoken about circulation and care. Now, a concrete modeled set of phrases, because ethics matter when you ask to photograph or record. Use these exact lines. Khmer. Som anunyat ao knyom thot rup tai bantik, nung ang tha chap arom nya nya. English. May I photograph this briefly with your permission and credit you? Always wait for an explicit yes before taking a picture. If someone says no, respect that choice.
And for listeners who want to share images with us, please confirm you have permission from the owner, strip location metadata if requested, and send submissions through the show curators. We will vet for privacy, anonymize where asked, and never expose street-level detail that could put livelihoods at risk.
A reminder, we will not describe how to clean containers on this episode. That mitigation is intentional. Discussing procedure on air could be misunderstood or misapplied. For hygiene steps, please check official public health guidance.
Before we close, what do these circulating objects teach us? They show how reuse is braided with care, reputation, and memory. A refilled bottle is not only a resource-saving act, it's a moment of trust. A repaired cup is not only thrift, it's a gesture that honors longevity. This matters culturally because it reveals values we don't always see in policy or market statistics.
To our listeners in the diaspora and beyond, consider the small objects in your home. What do they say about who you are, where you come from, and how you care? If you choose to share one modest, permissioned photo or a short clip of a returned container, tag Ancient Echoes and Samnang's YouTube. We'll curate with respect, checking permissions, anonymizing location, and honoring the people behind the objects.
Thanks for sitting with these quiet circulations. As we end, remember that these vessels, tin, glass, enamel, and even patched plastic, carry more than contents. They carry rhythms of everyday generosity, repair, and belonging.
Let's unlock the echoes of history together. We'll be back with another episode exploring a different current of Cambodian life.
If this episode moved you, subscribe to Ancient Echoes and visit Samnang's YouTube for visual explorations connected to today's stories. Share carefully, with consent, and we'll meet those objects where they live.
In the quiet of night, I whispered my plea, holding her close, hoping for her decree. I called upon spirits, asked them to guide, to take her heart and lead her by my side. So I drew her near, traced her brow so fair, my sight is way. Warm, sacred power, swai, mighty spirit awakened. By the master's right, let her heart be gently taken. Let her follow me now by vow and by sign. I hear these words, oh teacher, witness this plea. Oh, my sacred power, swai.